Welcome to Experience Focused Leaders. I'm delighted to bring to you Ravi Sawhney. Ravi is the CEO and founder of RKS Design that has been prolific for nearly 4 decades, bringing design to some of the most important products and companies in the world. He is currently also a founder and CEO of PAAI, which is productizing the design philosophy that he's invented called psychoesthetics. Ravi, welcome to the pod.
Thank you, Alex. Happy to be here.
Ravi, let's start with something called psychoesthetics TM. So this is your trademark. We'd love to understand what it is. I think everybody wants to create something beautiful, but very few of us have the experience and the depth and the breadth of your experience in knowing what that is. And then we all kind of hear that psychology is important, but there's a lot to unpack in terms of how to apply it. So tell us more.
So psychoesthetics is a term that I coined in 92 or 93, I forgot, because I'd been developing a methodology. It was human-centered.
Mm-hmm.
I had in the early part of my career, so I've been in design now for 50 years. In the early part of my career out of college, I got recruited into Xerox and into a think tank with the Human Factors Group, part of the industrial design team. And with 30 PhD psychologists, we were developing the first touchscreen interface.
So that's the
Uh,
stuff that Steve Jobs stole. You basically helped develop that Xerox
um,
PARC and
yeah, it came out of Park.
yeah,
And yeah, I don't know if Jobs stole it or he did a trade but he definitely brought it to life.
there you go.
Um, and um, and so, but the touch screen was, it was something that needed to be developed at that time because the controls were so expansive, and it was a global product. You had different languages. You couldn't build a control panel large enough to do everything that you could do with digital printing at that time. So we could
Mm,
scan a document or a picture, we could put it into a document, we could write the copy, and we could create a newsletter and then send it all over the world.
mm,
And so what I learned from the psychologists is that it is all human factors. It's all psychology.
yeah.
And then as I wasn't really into corporate life, so I
Mm,
left after a couple years and started RKS Design. And at that time in 82, I said, I'm going to write an underpinning for the firm that's going to keep us human-centered and grounded. And I wrote the underpinning, it's not how you feel about a design or an experience, it's how it makes you feel about yourself. So
mm,
I turned the camera 180 degrees. So if someone's looking at our design work,
yeah.
we're looking at them and we're watching what's happening. So understanding how people feel about themselves through things that come into their life is what it's all about.
So
And it
so
goes
just
back
to
to,
just for like a for laymen like myself, so basically what the human-centered design is the opposite of product-centered design or
yeah,
me-centered, like I have something to sell you. We've built this thing. I came up with this innovation. Look at how great it is. It's much
exactly.
more, how do we make you how do you what do you feel in the first place? And then like how do we create the types of feelings that you want to have more of through our product or service.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah, and it's
that
very grounded. Maya Angelou had said people will forget what you said, people forget what you did, they'll never forget how you made them feel.
mm,
And so over time, what we did is develop, or I did, was develop it into a structured methodology, and started applying that. So first big project we did, huge success, was Teddy Ruxpin, if you remember in the 80s. It's phenomenal talking teddy bear, captured the world. I used my methodology to make it relate to people. It's a Tudley teddy bear. It comes to life. How does that make people feel? And that was a phenomenal success. And along the ways, we just started evolving and we looked at Maslow's hierarchy. reinvented that into a mapping system that maps self-actualization, gives interactivity. We started building out in-depth
So let's
personas.
pause here. So like most people probably know the kind of fundamental like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, where you start with your basic survival needs and then move up to kind of connection and ultimately, you know, self-actualization. I think it goes
Yeah.
beyond even the latest version goes like being in the service of something even bigger than ourselves. And so tell us, like
Yeah.
let's dive in. How does that apply in the world of design? I'm sure everybody wants to make their message connect to people, or their product or service to connect with people that way. How did you think about that?
Well, as we started using Maslow hierarchy, we found two things. One is that it was, in some ways two-dimensional or one-dimensional. And that you had to like peg someone in on the ladder, but it didn't really help us create things that would motivate people to do things new for themselves they might otherwise not do. It was
Mm,
understanding like, okay, this is basic or this is high self-actualization. And so we looked at that and we said, well, let's start mapping it this way. And we tested it. We mapped interactivity against self-actualization. And what we found is that gave us four quadrants: a basic quadrant, a high interactivity quadrant, more of an aesthetic quadrant, and then a higher self-actualization quadrant. So so we found is that we could map anything, and that everything falls into ratings as far as self-actualization against interactivity. Low interactivity, low self-actualization, the examples of paperclip.
okay.
High interactivity. Now you
So
have
let's pause that. Let's explain. So I can't do very much with a paper clip other than put it on, and it doesn't like using a paper clip doesn't make me feel like a richer, more complete
yeah,
human being, right? Is that kind
ex-
of the okay?
exactly.
Okay.
It's almost mindless. You
Okay.
grab it, you use it, you don't
Okay.
think about it.
Okay.
And so it's low interactivity, it's low self-actualization.
Okay.
Um, right. So if we go far to the right, what's low self-actualization, high interactivity would be a tool like a skip loader. Eyes, ears, hands, feet, right? So you're engaging
I don't
all
know
the
what is.
sense.
Sorry for what is a skip loader?
A skip loader is a tractor with a shovel on it, basically,
Okay, got it. All right. That
right?
tells you so much. That tells you that I'm not of the menu of the doing anything with my hand straight. Okay, so it's a tractor. You interact with it uh extensively, but it's not making you fulfilled.
That's right. It's just a tool that you use at work.
It's a
And
tool.
I've got a flashing, one of my overheads is flashing off and on.
You're good. We
Uh,
can see you.
yeah, so highly interactive. You don't dream about it at night. It doesn't make you feel like you're a special person. It's a tool. It's
Maybe
just
the first time. Maybe the first time if you're a 14-year-old and you get on that, yeah, but then after that it just
that's a different case, all right?
yeah, exactly. All right, got it. So it's a
And
tool. It's a tool. You're highly engaged in using it, but again, it's not. It doesn't define you who you are. Okay.
and then if we say what is low interactivity and high self-actualization, we would say seeing the Mona Lisa is.
Mm.
It's high experience. You got to get to Paris. Uh, you got to get a ticket. You wait in line to get into the Louvre. Walk past
Et
a
all
hundred.
this stupid accent. You drink, you smoke your cigarette. Well, before you get into Louvre.
Yeah,
Yeah. So you do also. So you remember all this, and then you come back and you tell like
well,
I've reached my dream of
yeah,
seeing the
and when you
Mona.
see it, I mean, it feels like the longest, it's got to be the longest 15, 30 seconds, and there's people waiting in line and the guards there, and it's behind glass and it's behind a rope. But you remember it the rest of your life. You haven't touched it, you haven't interacted with it, you've just looked at it, and you remember it like yesterday.
Okay,
Uh,
got it. So maybe this is so because it was a special, rare experience. Paris has this place in our minds. Mona Lisa has this place in our minds. There's a scarcity. And so even though the glare from the protective screen sucks and there's like crowds of smelly people, next to you, you still you remember there's something to it. You
Yeah,
experience divine at that particular point
that's right.
in time, or sublime maybe is not, if not divine. So
Yeah.
you experience, okay, got it. All right.
And then if we so say go far right,
Yeah.
high interactivity, high self-actualization. For some people, a sports car would be an example. So
Okay.
it's all the interactivity of the tractor, and it's the beauty and the self-actualization of the Mona Lisa. Every time they look at it, they feel accomplished, they feel empowered, they feel alive. It changes who they are. And they enjoy it, they love it, but there's something special about it to them. Coming
Mm.
from SoCal, which is a car culture, that's very relevant to how we see it. But we map. What's interesting is that as we
And so
started,
so SoCal. So let's just do it like for the sake of city dwellers from New York and in Paris who don't maybe don't own cars. So like SoCal, it means that the sports car is you know glamour of Hollywood, wind in your ear, you're enjoying, you are like, that's the California.
yeah,
What are the things that make it, like, is it just sort of the narrative, the cultural narrative that we have about a
yeah,
car as well,
yeah,
like
but
that?
that's just an example.
Right.
That's just an example. It's, as you map, what we found is that we can map personas. So we do deep
Mm.
dive interviews. We've interviewed globally well over 3,000 people. And as you interview people and really, do the ethnography and learn about them, you find that you can map them as to where they are today. The voice of consumer, on and on, but really understanding the people, you got to talk to people. And when you do that, you learn things and you can actually map them where they are on the map. And it's done as a team sport. Everyone debates and moves things around until you come to agreement.
So wait,
Um,
so the product has a certain place, right? Like
yeah.
and then individuals as well, they could be placed on this.
Individuals fall onto the map, and so do brands.
Okay,
You
so
know,
so brands make sense. Uh Products make sense. Tell me about people. Like how do people fall in the map?
well, it depends. Again, it's very specific as to what the objective is.
Hmm.
But let's say I'm developing a new cell phone.
Okay.
And for example, uh, I look at the market for cell phones and the applications, and I would say, based on personas, people are going upper right, right, with that cell phone, right? We're looking for, you know, you have your phone, you're in a restaurant. If it looks antiquated, how do you feel about yourself? If it looks fresh, new, like you're current, you're connected, that's kind of taking you upper right, right?
Mm.
Now
Got
we
it.
change,
Got it. Mhm. So
so that
for a lot
changed.
of like high innovation, high kind of commitment type of products, it's
That's
upper
right.
right. But if you're like, if I'm okay with my like 20-year-old flip phone, and I don't even want the, I don't, I'm like getting
Yeah, you
away
may
from phones as much as possible. So that doesn't really matter to
yeah, you
me.
may be lower left. You may be more
Yeah.
in the basic quadrant.
Basic quadrant.
Yeah.
And then somebody else may be like, it's a BlackBerry, just use it to send an email and not
Yep.
to like express
Yeah.
myself in a meaningful way. So
Yeah.
okay, that makes a lot. So then
And
you're kind of these personalities, and then you can pick and choose who's your ideal buyer profile then, based on
yeah.
what you're
Yeah.
building, right?
Yeah, and but it goes beyond that. It goes into predictive modeling. So as
Mm.
you learn the personas, you find out where they are today. So let's call that voice of consumer. It's where are they today? But basically, what you learn is that, but where do they want to go? Right? We
Mm,
have to motivate someone, hopefully, to do something beneficial for themselves they otherwise wouldn't do. So people want to evolve, people want to grow, they want to be more tomorrow than they are today. That's kind of the human nature. And
mm,
so you take a look and you say, hmm, people want to go up or right. In many cases today, they want to go up or left. They're saying, I want low interactivity and high self-actualization. I want to just talk to my phone. I don't want to even touch the button. I want
it's
to
too
turn it off,
complex. I don't want to think about it. It's like I just
right?
okay, interesting, right?
I want this
So
beautiful artifact that is completely voice activated. And the minute I touch it, it comes on, it's like, what would you like to do today? Call my wife. Right? And that's where a lot of people are going. So you have to project, say, okay, but where do people want to go today? And that's where we need to land. Otherwise, all you're
mm,
going to do is end up behind the times. So it became a predictive model that we were able to say, okay, here's how we forecast the future of where people want to land. And as you do this, you find out things like we were doing DNA sequencers. We thought they would be all in the high utilization, the technology quadrant, lower right. As we spoke to the scientists and chief medical officers and everyone, they were thinking about DNA sequencing is this is going to change the planet. It's going to increase the
mm.
quality of life for everyone on the planet. And we're looking for a signature design that says this is the future of medical science. They weren't about
And the
like
moment you say signature, that means like it's top. Typically, it's like something very
they're going to
self-actualized, upper right corner, right? The
upper
moment
right
you,
quadrant,
yeah, okay,
and
got it. Okay.
not all the way up, but definitely further than where everything else was. And when we
And
created
that's a
that,
B2B, quote unquote, B2B product. At a,
that's strictly a B2B.
so basically what you're saying is, so this is B2B product or scientific product, and
Yep.
it's not about science necessarily. It's also about the perception of where this type of science fits in into the persona of the buyer.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah.
beautiful.
The personal identity with that's created through that design language. And that was a phenomenal success. That company, and not just because of the global design language we did for Life Technologies, but because they came out with new technology, allowed you to do a sequence in 2 hours for $1,000. That took them from a $5 billion market cap to an exit 4 months after the launch of the new product to an exit of $15 billion.
So when we think when you've developed and tested and refined this framework, and it feels like it's very sophisticated because you're gonna kind of find out where the customer is moving or wants to move to, where they are and where they want to move towards. You'll kind of see what product you're dealing with and like does it fit that, and you're going to try and potentially be constrained a little bit by what the product can do. And then there's the brand. Sounds like some brands have certain permissions, and in other cases you may need to create a whole new brand or not even try something because you wouldn't leverage the brand distribution advantage.
Or it
So how do you mix all of that?
could be the presentation of the brand. Yeah,
Sure.
it so when we talk about where people want to go,
Yeah.
that creates the white space. And if you're
Okay.
looking at the competitive landscape, you have to say, okay, you know, is that white space? Is that blue ocean?
Right.
And if
So
it
you
is,
start with that. You start with where do people generally want to go?
exactly.
You don't want to start with like, I do this tech and it's really cool and it does this in 2 hours, what used to be 20 hours. No, you gotta, yes, that's gonna inform you later, but you gotta start with the way the
That's
where do people want to go and then the competitive density around that.
that's right.
Okay.
And then you test the different brands,
Okay.
including that brand. It could be in the case of Life Technologies, their branding on all of their products, and they had grown through acquisition. So there's over
Mm.
30 different companies had come together, all as individual profit centers and running as individual. Their badge said Life Technologies, a division boom, 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 and what we did is we just took all that and made it into a clean little badge that said Life Technologies, and we took all the verbiage out because they were lower right on their branding, and we moved them right into that opportunity zone. And what we did was we floated life, the word life, in between two pieces of clear plastic. And then we put technologies on the back of the plastic and put white on the back. And what it did is it made a true drop shadow so
Mm,
that as you walked by, it had a little bit of life to it based on the lighting, right? So it wasn't like a printed drop shadow. It was a real drop shadow. And DNA kind of floats in space.
mm.
And so it had like a different resonance. So that's how you move the brands, into that zone. But we also
So you
use it
start
for yeah,
experiencing almost the promise of that product the moment
yeah,
you look at, like, you're getting that great first impression, and
yeah.
sort of like when we were talking about Apple, like you get the feeling of the Apple the moment you start opening the package, and so you were doing that for B2B.
And
Uh,
that
so
ties into the hero's journey.
mm,
So we've built personas, we've taken user journeys, we've looked at pain states, transformed into help me statements. But then ultimately, we take people through the hero's journey. So we leveraged Maslow, then we leveraged Campbell,
yeah.
and we said, okay, Campbell found the universal truth that in all culture throughout time, that the story of the heroes emerged in all great religions and storytelling. And what we said was that let's use the hero's journey as the narrative of the story of a product or a service or anything experience because we want to make people feel like a hero every day of their life.
Mm,
So what we did is then with all of that said, then we take it and when we get to design, we say, how do we use design to attract someone? The call to action.
okay.
How do we engage them through micro affirmations, which is the challenge. And once you're attracted to something, you're always a little bit hesitant. It's like, yeah, but are you going to disappoint me? It's like, pretty looking can opener. But are you just gonna disappoint me? There's a famous there's a very famous uh, uh, juicer for oranges and lemons made by Philippe Stark with three
Mm,
legs,
yeah. Mm,
beautiful, acorn, but you can't use it. It's just beautiful, and people have it. I mean, they have it in their kitchen because it's such a work of art. Um, but you go through these tests and you say, okay, you start getting affirmation after affirmation, and then eventually you adopt it. When
So
you
let
adopt
let's
it,
so on the so maybe like take a step back. So let's connect what you were just describing to Hero's Journey. Like let's illustrate, how does Hero's Journey work in the either product design or maybe your first onboarding design. um a lot of our customers are, creating content, and I think
Mhm.
that it oftentimes it's almost super important to communicate the journey, the all the kind of the challenges and like this aspiration even before you encounter the product, to kind of get them like, have you tried this, you tried this, but you're persistent because you want it, but then and then you tell us, like, how do you create that, Joseph Campbell meets modern design experience?
well,
uh
you've got to have incredible levels of design talent
okay.
because people are experts in design.
Mm,
Um, 30 years ago, 20 years ago, design was more of an elite type of thing.
mm,
Today we're in a village in Africa talking to, you know, a teenager
mm,
telling us about, you know, Nike and telling us about Apple and telling, all the coolest stuff. And they can, they can write an essay on design. So we've learned maybe through Apple and others that that
Design
immediate
quotient
visceral
is up.
response.
So design quotient is gone through the roof in the last
Oh, absolutely.
so like and
Yeah.
this visual or everything like is it's like I mean I guess most of it like where you're mostly in the visual universe, but let's say even copy or content as well.
Yeah. It's true in everything.
Okay.
It's true in copy, having the right headline, having the right, attractor that attracts someone right away. You call it the hook in marketing,
Marketing.
right?
So basically,
But
there's a lot less room for error for the modern consumer, be they
oh,
third
there's
world or enterprise B2B, doesn't matter. They are all savvy design, savvy design consumers in their everyday life.
yeah.
Okay.
And even in an MVP, like PAAI will launch next month with an
Okay.
MVP. Um, you gotta check the boxes because people have Deepak Chopra calls it a yum and yuck response. You will look at something and immediately say fits me. I relate to it. I'm attracted to it. I want to engage with it, or you know, yeah, not for me. And,
Yeah,
and we
we have a saying on for content, like for our customers, like you never get a obviously second chance to make to first
our first
impression
impression. Yeah.
when it comes to like and so that kind of is like no people judge your ebook by your cover or they judge
Oh
your
my
annual
God.
report by your cover, right? We kind of like to think that I worked so hard on getting it all right and all compliant and all like checked all the dots, and then it looks like everything else, and I'll read it if I have to, but I'm not gonna be. But it's my impression is like it's everything else, and yeah, that's probably defeats the purpose of all
Yeah.
that work, right?
That's the
So
call to action.
that's
That's
a
the
call
call
to
to
action,
action.
right?
That's the call to action. And and
And you're
and
making it a call to adventure almost, right? Because like I think the way you've set up the like if we think of Campbell, it's more than just like attracting it, right? It's sort of
oh no,
there's
it's
something
engagement.
more. It's in right.
It's engagement. It's adoption. It's the moment of truth. First
Mm,
time you use something or share something, it should make you feel good about yourself
mm,
because it's about self-actualization. We're all looking for self-affirmation and self-actualization.
mm,
I'm looking for it from you, and you're looking for it from me. And we're on a hero's journey together right now. That, something attracted us to this call. We're
yeah.
engaging. We're now testing ideas, right? And eventually, hopefully, you'll adopt some of my ideas and share them. And that's the moment of truth. And when that happens, then the hero emerges and your body language changes, your self-esteem changes, you start sharing. And the best example I have is the most mundane product we've ever done is a can opener for the global brand Zyliss or
Mm,
Zyliss, and as it's called. You've probably seen Zyliss products all over kitchens everywhere. And as we were designing their new generation can opener, and you know, we're going through the psychoesthetics, we're going through the user journeys, we're going through all of this, and we said, this has actually got a very difficult experience. There's hundreds of can openers out there. You have to squeeze the two handles together and turn a lever. And if you get distracted and you release your hand a little bit, you got to void and you got to do it all over again. You got
right.
to really focus. And we said, let's make the two handles click together. So when you puncture the can, the handles are holding together, and you just turn
Right.
the knob, and now it becomes, completely mindless. That's got over almost 40,000 reviews on Amazon
That feature
for
alone.
for a can opener,
Yeah.
right? And so part of it is that if you're looking over the horizon, you say, how can I create a viral effect
Right.
through self-actualization that's so powerful? that people will write about their can opener, that they want to share their can opener experience, $15 can opener. And I don't write Amazon reviews, but I mean, how do you create a phenomenon when, can openers go back to the time of Napoleon, I think, and there's hundreds of choices, and it's not about beauty, but use beauty to attract and then add the interaction.
So it's beauty plus utility plus like you make the well, it kind of is that an interaction? There is an interaction because there is a click there. Your it's your
There's a click
experience.
and
Yeah,
there's the click and there's the haptic of how
yeah,
you feel it click and there's a little sound.
right. That's beautiful. So you know what? Like else, this is for our audience for Relayto AI. When you were describing your two by two, and I was just thinking like, so you're taking this sort of low interactive, low actualization report that you're sharing. It's almost like black and white can opener like kind of thing, right? Like and
Hmm.
you imagine you're turning it into multi-dimensional, multimodal, highly interactive, highly aesthetic version, and you're like, let's forget how you do it, but and so you can literally, in that case, you get to the areas that you want to in the report. You don't have to go page
Right.
by page, right? You interact. If you are a video person, you get a video. If you're an audio person, you could listen to like mini podcast snippets on the areas of interest. If you're AI super user, right, you could chat with AI, right? But you don't know who you are necessarily. So, this report could adapt to your needs. And so it becomes a much deeper personal experience. And on that front page, there's a video that plays automatically that signals that this is not your grandma's report built in the basement somewhere, 30
Mm.
years ago. And so that I think beautifully fits into your framework because you're basically creating extra layers of interactivity and ownership for the viewer. And then there's self-actualization. Then I could say like, hey, I want to control what I read. I don't want to be controlled by you. That's kind of feels
Yeah,
like that's self-actualization. I want to, I want to control my time. I want to like, and I want to control how I like learn, and so I want to be empowered.
that's right.
And,
That's right.
and then,
Empowerment is the right.
right. And if I want to drill in, I don't want to be like, I want to drill in, right? Like I might want to actually spend, like you make it very easy for me to not read your report and just get through one snippet that I need to. But on that one snippet, I might actually spend a lot more time. And then I'm intrigued. I'll go back and read more. So we're seeing like evidence now through engagement data. So in a way, like I'm glad we dug into it because I think we've been secretly stealing your framework and how we're thinking about it. Does that
Yeah.
resonate with you, like from a digital content perspective?
Oh,
Going,
absolutely. And it resonates from a PAAI
okay,
position also, that where are LLMs today and where does PAAI take it? So if you're,
but tell us more about PAI. I know this is super exciting for you to bring to life your methodology in the new form factor.
yeah, like any great tool, uh, and it happens rarely, but um, it's like new technology comes along and we've got this proven tool we've used for 3.5 decades as a tool. And we've used it for companies like Lego and Intel and Samsung, and I mean the list goes on and on.
This is the
Well,
your framework, the
this is the
psychoesthetic.
psychoesthetics.
Yeah.
And then and Harvard did a case study on it. And Harvard then did a classroom exercise. And then I co-authored a book with Deepa Prahlad under the guidance of C.K. Prahlad called Predictable Magic. That was with Wharton Publishing. And I published two additional books on it. So, here's a solid methodology, and along comes technology that all of a sudden says, wait a minute, we can turn what we've done into digital signal
Hmm.
that can then be applied to AI and can take the human side of interaction and plug that into AI so that you can't make AI think like a human. AI can't predict the future, right? It can't predict
But you know
emotion.
how but you know human factors.
Yes. So we take all of that, but we also ingest, we have an incredible ingestion engine. We ingest pretty much everything about it that we can throw into the hopper. And then it builds a psychoesthetics model that basically has all psychoesthetics. And then we go through another 7 modules, go through, what is the opportunity definition? How do you capture that opportunity, go to market? How do you finance it? How do you build an organization around it? How do you market it? What's your go to market? And so we basically took all of our experience in incubating companies and layered that on top of psychoaesthetics and said, based on psychoaesthetics, we could have interactivity between all these modules that cross feed each other.
Mm-hmm.
And now you have output that is McKinsey quality, right? 300-page decks that show the pathway to high EV, what the risks are to avoid, what's the pathway. And now what we hope is that instead of having 70 to 80% new initiatives failing, that we now have, 50%, 60% success rate, and people can now do things more efficiently and more successfully through that. But as we run it, and we talk about you hear his journey. So one of my key team members, who's been with me 35 years, so he's been running it, and this is how we're been developing all of the software for it. And he runs it on a private chat,
Mm.
proprietary private chat. It's addictive. I mean, I will see him, uh, you know, I mean, it is so empowering, so self-actualizing. You get an email, at 1 in the morning. You don't want to go home because it's showing you things that you just never even realized. You said we would have had to develop this new app, this new software, this new product, and would have had to go all the way down this pathway to find out that we have a missing link, that we have, that there's something in there that's going to cause rejection because people aren't going to understand it, people aren't going to adopt it, people aren't going to see the value in it. All of that is exposed, very early on, and it's defined as to what to do, who to do it for, what's the pathway, what's the experience, what's the value, all the way down to enterprise value.
So
We
basically, if I had to pick up on this, you're infusing design was this methodology and a data driven approach, so that you can de-risk innovation for
yeah,
companies, right? Like
yeah,
fundamentally, because the big a lot of the problems was this thing you try 5 things and half of them works,
yeah,
point zero out of five works, so you have to try 10 things, right? And what you're saying is you have a much higher predictability of success,
yeah. So it's
and
it's
yeah.
it's risk mitigation. The other benefit is, or there's probably a few other benefits, is that it forms team alignment.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, one of the biggest challenges for large organizations, especially in the global scheme, is team alignment and team drift.
Hmm.
And so that through the visual assets, through sharing with everyone, you can keep your team together, you can keep them on track, you can have shared mission and vision and a shared pathway to get there.
And these
And
are, yeah, go
that's
ahead,
a
sorry.
that's a byproduct, but it's a huge byproduct.
Well, especially because you of the size and names of your clients, right? Like if you're working on a major launch, you have a global multi-stakeholder team, right? From, let's say, supply chain, manufacturing, design, marketing, etc., right? And so what you're saying is you're able to bring them all together
Oh yeah.
in one place. how does this work in a earlier stage environment? I'm sure there's, you were launching a lot of products rapidly, but like then there's not as much time to do research. But how would you think about this?
Yeah, we get entrepreneurs. A more recent entrepreneur came in, and we've been on the project, let's say 4 months,
Mhm.
and now they're at a point of kind of go or no go. And we did a comprehensive 250-page PAAI, analysis and strategy. And, we did all the financial modeling, everything. We figured out, exactly the pathway to take a $4 million investment and generate an EV of 800 million in
Mm,
5 years without them having to like enter the market. And in that case, what we did was that the original concept was to create a direct-to-consumer product.
mm,
Well, and as we developed the technology and used psychoesthetics to actually develop the technology and target the user experience in a way, what we found was the direct pathway is a split between B2B to C
mm,
and to use international distributors for the global play. And that took it from a high risk position
mm,
to, boom, here's exactly the pathway, here's exactly how you're going to go to market, here's exactly how much you need to invest in everything to get to market and what your ROI is and the profitability of it. And so the other way you can use it if you're idea generating is you float your idea, even with minimal input. You float your idea through PAAI, and it'll show you the SPS score, the success potential score. It'll show you that, and it'll show you whether what you should or shouldn't do. And then you can start to toggle and say, well, what if I did this? What if I did that? Or here's another idea.
right.
And
So,
that works for services and for product.
got it. So that actually probably leads me to kind of the question that I'd like to wrap us up on, but I think you probably answering that your software could answer it. But like, what do you see as the biggest mistakes that companies consistently make as they, work without you, or maybe even at the beginning of the journeys of working with you, that you could help them avoid? Is there a
What's
pattern
that?
that you've, yeah.
It's the same. It is this the same difficult answer. Is that how do you avoid misalignment with
Mm,
with the people who are going to make decisions about whether they adopt your new brand, service, product, anything. When I would teach, I would talk about, you could create an advancement in a scalpel. You could say this is a better scalpel, but you have to understand that it's impossible for a surgeon to switch because they're programmed, right, to make a precise cut that can't even be measured with that tool that they've learned on. And
mm,
so, you know, so somebody comes to us and says, we've got this great technology and we're going to do an electronic scalpel, yada, yada, yada. And say, oh, great technology. Yeah. And it can improve the quality of life and with less mistakes and all that. But there's a misalignment with the end surgeon who
mm,
can't learn a new device because they're so programmed. I mean, that's just
mm,
one example, but we have examples like that every day in our life where it's like, yeah, that's not for me, right? And that happens in all kinds of categories. It happens every day in our lives, right? It's kind of like yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. And our emotions do a lot of that filtering for us. So you can't forget the emotional content of, that self-actualization, that empowerment, that fear of making a bad decision, or in the case of business, you know, huge, huge failure rates. Um,
and is that is that okay if as long as I guess you don't need to please everybody, right? Like you could your product could be right for certain things, but what I hear you saying is a lot of people make the wrong assumption that they will please that audience, and then or that they're right for that audience, and then there's a misalignment. So it's not that it's sort of for your chosen audience, there needs to be the sort of all the stars need to align.
Yeah,
Is that kind of
no,
the
that's correct. And you don't need to move everything to the upper right or upper left.
right?
I mean, that may be impossible, to do. You need to find a path and a roadmap to start migrating to where people want to go. And then as you connect, then you get brand resonance, you get value in the company, you get profitability. I've said a lot in a little time, I bet.
Ravi, last question as we wrap up. How do people uh learn more about all your products and bring more beautiful design into their life?
Well, Psychoesthetics 2.0 is on Amazon.
Okay.
And that's a great book. PA-AI is a website now, and there's a list that you can join for announcements and such. RKSdesign.com has case studies, one after another. Every project that RKS Design shows, it shows how did we do it? How did we get there? So our philosophy is always like share the process so that everyone benefits. It's not something we're just going to hold to ourselves. We want the world to be a better place. We want, design, innovation, entrepreneurship, all to succeed. I mean, hopefully more success means a better world for everyone.
Beautiful. Let's design a beautiful world. Ravi, Sawhney, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Alex. Pleasure.